So first of all, what is x to the third times x squared equal to? You might be inclined to say to the power of 6 because 3 times 2 is 6, but that's not right. The real answer is x to the fifth power. By this end of the video, you will figure out why it's x to the power of 5 and not x to the power of 6. So what even are exponents? Well, exponents are just repeated multiplication. For example, 2 to the third is just equal to 2 times 2 times 2. You see that 2 is being multiplied and it's the base. This is the base. And how many times is being multiplied? 1, 2, 3. That is the exponent on top. And here we have an x base to the power of 3. So that means the base x is being multiplied 3 times. So here we have one time, multiply it a second time, and then multiply a third one on. That's why the top is 3. The base tells you what is being multiplied, and the exponent is telling you how many times this happens. So let's start with some rules. So first, let's do product rule. We have a times xb. These are just variables for whatever numbers are there. So when we multiply things with the same base, and we have different exponents, we take the base, we keep the base, since it's the same base, and we add the exponents. For example, if we have x to the power of 3 times x to the power of 2, like we had in the intro, it would be x3 plus 2, which is basically x to the power of 5. And if we want to see how that works, we have x times x times x. That's this part. And then we're going to multiply because we have this multiplication in the middle. And then we're going to multiply x times x because x to the power of 3, x times x times x, x to the power of 2, x times x. So when we get this and we multiply it all up, remember we keep the base. What's being multiplied is x, so we have the base as x. Then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we put 5 as the exponent. It's the same thing as what we have up here from the rules. So for example, we can do a to the power of 4 times a to the power of 7. Sorry, it looks like a 9, but what we do is we add this. 4 plus 7 gives us 11 because we just add the top. We keep the base, which is an a. We have an a here. We add the exponent. 4 plus 7 is 11. Next is quotient rule, which is basically what we do when we divide exponents with the same base. So for example, we have x to the power of a, x to the power of b, we're dividing. What we do is we take the same base because we have the same base. Remember, for all these rules, we want to have the same base. So if one base is 2 and one base is 4, you unfortunately can't, but you can also transform it. Here, when we do this, it's subtraction. We do a minus b. We keep the base, which is the x, and then we subtract the exponents, which is a minus b, the top minus the bottom. For example, if we have x to the power of 5 divided by x to the power of 3, we're going to get x squared. To show you how this works, we have x times x times x times x times x. That's x to the power of 5. And when we have x to the power of 3, we're going to put x to the power of 3 on the bottom, x times x times x. And when we look at this, we can cancel some out. And basically what we're doing is when we cancel it out, we're basically subtracting it out. So x divided by x, 1, 2, 3. What we have left is x squared. Basically, we start with x to the power of 5 on the top, x to the power of 3 on the bottom. Whatever cancels out is obviously being subtracted out, and we are left with x squared. Another example we can do is m to the power of 4 divided by m to the power of 2. This is going to be m to the power of 2 because 4 minus 2 is 2. We keep the base, keep the base always. Draw it out, m times m times m times m divided by m times m. Cancel, cancel, we have m times m, which is just m squared. Another important rule is the zero rule, or the zero exponent. Basically, if anything is raised to the power of 0, it's equal to 1. So if I have x to the power of 0, it's 1. If I have 1 to the power of 0, it's 1. If I have 2 raised to the power of 0, it's 1. Everything raised to the power of 0 is going to be 1. Next is the negative exponent rule. If we have a negative exponent, we're going to take the reciprocal of it as a positive exponent. So basically, x to the n, negative n, we're going to just put x to the n on the bottom of 1. And if we have something like x to the power of negative 2, we're going to put it under a 1 without the negative on the bottom as the exponent. We're just going to put the positive version because by inverting this and turning it onto the bottom, we get rid of the negative. So you don't want to keep the negative when you flip it. Next, we have power rules when we do a power to a power. So say, for example, we have x to the a. Let me rewrite that. X to the a raised to the power of x to the b. What we get is x to the a times the b. Now here's where you multiply. Before, when we had the product where we just did x to the a times x to the b, we add it like this. But here, when it's raised like this, it's x to the a to the power of b. So this is two exponents. This is an exponent here and another exponent here. Here is where we multiply. So for example, let's do an example of this. Let me get rid of this. So we have x squared to the power of 3. We just do x 2 times 3, which is x to the power of 6. If we want to do another example, y to the power of 5 to the power of 3 is going to be y times 5 times 3, which is y to the 15th power. If we want to do something like the power of a product, for example, ab to the power of n, we have to just apply it to both parts of the multiplication process. So let me do real numbers if this doesn't make sense, with a variable, obviously. 3 to the power of x to the power of 2. See how we have these as the things in the parentheses, and then these are basically ab. We have ab in the standard, and then we're going to use 3x for our specific problem. And then our n is 2 in our problem as well. So to follow the rules, we have the 3, raise it to the power, times x, raise it to the power, and you can leave it like this, or you can turn it into 9x squared, because 3 to the power of 2, which is just 3 times 3, which is 9, times x squared is just 9x squared. And that's all the rules we have for today. Thank you for watching.